Hello there. Today, I wanted to give you an overview of the Spam Act. It's Simon here. So let's get into it. And I thought you might be interested to know what the Spam Act covers. So what is the Spam Act? The Spam Act is a piece of Australian law that covers the use of emails, mobile phone text messages, multimedia messages, and instant messaging for the purposes of business. So in other words, if you're sending an email, text messages, multimedia messages, or any sort of instant messaging out to your customers or potential customers, then you are covered under the Spam Act. Interestingly, the Spam Act does not cover voice telemarketing. That's covered under something else. So, under the Spam Act, a commercial electronic message. So if you're sending emails out under the Spam Act, the email or the text message, etc., cannot be sent without the recipient's consent. Now, their consent can be express or inferred, meaning they can give their clear consent, or you can imply that they've given their consent from the course of dealings between the parties. And the electronic message or the email, I'm just going to refer to them, I'm just going to refer to messages as emails because that's the easiest way of doing it. An email must be clear and accurate and in relation to the person or business that's responsible for sending out the message. So you can't be misleading or deceptive about who the actual email or text message is coming from. And that message must contain a functional unsubscribe facility. And this is one problem we still see, believe it or not, in emails that are sent out, is that they don't allow people to unsubscribe. Interestingly, I've seen a fair few from other lawyers who don't have an unsubscribe functionality on their emails. All right. So let's discuss what exactly is a commercial electronic message. So basically, it's an electronic message that's sent using an internet carriage service that encourages participation in a commercial activity regardless of whether there is an expectation of profit. So a commercial electronic message or an email, when you look at the content and presentation of that email, including links and contact information, it could be concluded to have at least one of the purposes set out below. So if it offers to supply goods or services, or if it advertises or promotes goods or services, or offers to supply land or an interest in land, or the email or message covers an offer to provide a business opportunity or investment opportunity, then it's 99% likely that it is a commercial electronic message and therefore covered under the Spam Act. It's also worth noting that the Spam Act doesn't cover or does not regulate non-electronic commercial messages. So if you're sending out something in the post or paper communications, they are not covered. Excuse me. Also, voice-to-voice telemarketing, including voicemail, is not covered. Messages which contain purely factual information with no commercial content. So if you send out an email that just provides factual information and there's no desire to try and sell services or goods or advertise, then you're going to be okay. And messages from government bodies, charities, or educational institutions are also not covered. Good to know, right? It's worth noting that the Spam Act covers messages which have a geographical link to Australia. For instance, where the message that's being sent originates in Australia or originates overseas but sent to an address accessed in Australia, then it will be covered by the Spam Act. So an email or text message will not be unsolicited if the recipient consents to receiving it. Now, consent can be express or inferred, and it can be reasonably inferred from the conduct and business and other relationships of the individual or organization concerned. For example, it's possible to infer consent if there was an existing business relationship between the business and the sender. So if there's some pre-existing relationship, then you can infer or imply consent. Or if the recipient published its work-related emails or electronic, sorry, I've said that wrong. If the recipient published its work-related electronic address, such as its email address, in conspicuous ways, and the sender sent the recipient a message relating to the recipient's work, then that is a way to infer or imply consent as well. Okay, moving right along. So all email messages and text messages must have an unsubscribe facility. Now, this is quite commonplace these days with emails, even though I did say that I have seen a few parties that don't do it, but not always working on text messages. In other words, some of the marketing text messages I've seen and have received don't have an unsubscribe facility. Some of them generally say things like, reply with stop, but some don't. So just be mindful that if you are going to market via text message, then just have that unsubscribe facility included as well. So in other words, and this is the bottom part here, is that there must just be an easy way for people to unsubscribe from receiving your messages. Now, if you do the wrong thing and you are suspected of breaching the Spam Act, there's an entity called ACMA who has the power under the Spam Act to do certain things. So they can issue a formal warning, they can issue an infringement notice, they can search premises and seize equipment, they can accept an enforceable undertaking, they can apply to the federal court for an injunction to stop the alleged breach, and they can also commence proceedings in the federal court and seek orders for a range of things. ACMA stands for the Australian Communications and Media Authority. So, what does that mean? Well, in November of 2017, a telecommunications company paid a $360,000 infringement notice for contravening Section 16 of the Spam Act. And that was because they were sending out emails to consumers who had previously unsubscribed and withdrawn their consent. So in that case, ACMA issued an infringement notice instead of referring the matter to the federal court, after taking account of the fact that the company had cooperated with the investigation, admitted the breach, and undertaken steps to remedy the causes of the breach. But still, quite a large fine. Also, on the 31st of January 2020, ACMA announced that Singtel Optus, or Optus, had paid a Optus had paid a $504,000 infringement notice for significant breaches of the Spam Act, and that was for sending SMS and email marketing messages to consumers after they had unsubscribed. And that was the second largest infringement notice paid to the ACMA, and it's the largest payment for, or the largest penalty payment for infringing the Spam Act, it's the largest infringement notice ever paid for spamming in Australia. That's what I'm trying to say. If I can get my words out, apologies for that. Righto. So the Spam Act sets out certain factors which the court must consider when setting penalties. And they're all set out there: the nature and extent of the contravention, the nature and extent of any loss or damage suffered as a result of the contravention, the circumstances under which the contravention took place, whether the person has previously been found to have engaged in similar conduct in proceedings under the Spam Act, or where the court considers it appropriate by a court in another country. So where there have been 2 or more contraventions of the core rules against sending unsolicited commercial electronic messages, the federal court has the power to award penalties of up to 10,000 penalty units per day for corporations or 2,000 penalty units per day for individuals. Now, I'll have to check this, so this is going to be inaccurate, but I think a penalty unit is worth around $132, or let's say $130. So they have the power to issue a penalty of 10,000 times 130, which is $1.3 million a day. Now, that's against companies. Still, significant fines or significant potential for fines. Righto, let's move along. What are botnets? So botnets are used extensively to spread email spam, as well as to launch denial of service attacks. And they allow spammers, who are also known as botmasters, to avoid detection. And by using them, a spammer's own bandwidth costs are reduced, and tens of thousands of bots can be used at any one time for truly distributed spamming power. So they are a bit of a concern. So botnet spam is spread through what they call zombie computers, or computers that have been compromised by a hacker, computer virus, or Trojan horse program. So most owners of zombie computers don't even know that their computer is a zombie computer and that their computer is being used for spamming, which is a bit of a worry. Now, antivirus detection software definitely helps you with all that sort of stuff and keep your computer safe, but it's definitely worth thinking about. And that has been a brief overview of the Spam Act. Interesting stuff, correct? Maybe not. But look, it's good just to have an understanding as to the requirements in Australian law. And so basically the key is you need consent to send people email messages, and you need to be able to, or you need to offer people the ability to unsubscribe. They are the 2 key things. So consent to send and an unsubscribe facility once you have sent. And if you do that, you're going to be pretty right. Hope that helps. Any questions or inquiries, please feel free to get in touch. Thank you.